Tonight, the anatomy of a censure hearing. We have history playing out before our eyes in the last 24 hours, where an ad-hoc committee of parliament is, for the very first time, looking into a motion that may lead to the removal of a minister. We haven't done it before. This is the closest you come to an impeachment proceeding. And we're beginning to learn a few things. It's also maturing our democracy a bit more. And so we want to spend some time unpacking what this means. And if you followed the proceedings yesterday, you begin to learn that it's pretty challenging. It's as if Parliament is making up the rules and defining the process as it goes. And we've seen a few challenges in the process, but that is the essence of democracy. It sort of then becomes an organism, the Constitution, the laws. It's a living organism. They breathe, they develop, they grow, they mature. And that's what we're doing. It's been tested for the very first time. We'll see how this plays out. And at the end of it all, the eventual decision will be with the president. And again, that will test the Constitution. So let's unpack this a bit more. There's a significant breakdown. The committee returns on Friday when the finance minister, as you know, will have an opportunity to put up a defense. And that will also give us a bit of clarity on how this process has been carried out. But the basis of what is happening is this constitutional provision, Article 82. And there are a few things I want you to note about this clause. Parliament may, by resolution supported by votes of not less than 2/3 of all members of Parliament, pass a vote of censure on a minister of state. So you need 2/3 of all the members of Parliament. What it means is the process that you're currently witnessing at the ad hoc committee level is just the process that would lead to a plenary debate, and it's at that point that the 2/3 becomes live, and that will revolve around 184 members of Parliament as Parliament is currently constituted. If you take the view that the minority side have 137 members of Parliament, they will need 47 more people, 47 more members of the majority side to vote with them so they can reach this 184 number they need to ensure that Ken Ofori-Atta is removed as the finance minister. The key question that remains, can they get a number? This is by secret vote, by the way, and we expect that to be so. And so we expect that, it may throw up some surprises. But if you throw in the other complication that the party, the NPP, has issued a 3-line whip, in essence, through the whip system in Parliament, asking their members to abstain, not to participate, not to vote in this process. We would also explore tonight what the implication of that is, a 3-line whip. We've heard that the ultimate sanction for violating that 3-line whip could be that a party will expel you, will expel a member of Parliament. It hasn't been said in the statement that was issued, but it's implied. They will expel you. And some have argued that constitutionally, if your party expels you as a member of Parliament, if they expel you from the party, you would or should automatically lose your seat in Parliament. Does that follow necessarily? Is that why possibly this vote of censure will fail? Because some of the members of Parliament know the consequence, they're going to pay a high price for it. We'll get into that. Very interesting dynamics that we'll get into explore tonight. And then also, the constitutional provisions provide a bit more to this, that if you have this resolution, which is referred to what I just talked about, you need a 7-day period notice to be given for this motion. That has passed now. That is why it came on the floor and was moved, slightly debated. They debated the procedure a bit, and then the Speaker referred it. That notice of motion has now been signed in not less than 1/3, which is what the minority side by themselves managed to get, which forced the Speaker to hear it. Now, it will be debated within 14 days. The Speaker has given the committee 7 days to do their work, and they have just next week. So we expect that definitely next week, their report will come to the plenary, unless they go to the Speaker and ask for an extension. We don't expect that to happen. But it will come to the floor, and then the debate to be debated. It's so within the 14-day period. But whilst that is happening, the minister in question, who is Ken Ofori-Atta, has a right now to be heard on the floor. But that is the curious bit of this, right? Because the Constitution didn't talk about a committee that will hear the minister before the debate in the plenary. Because I see when you read this, my understanding of this is the debate on the floor of Parliament. A minister state in respect of whom a vote of censure is debated under clause 5. Where do you have debates? It's on the floor of Parliament, right? So you expect that he will have an opportunity to be heard. It's entitled to be heard on the floor when the debate is happening. But considering, because that's where his side will be heard, but considering that on Friday we'll hear him already before the committee, what happens when the report goes before the committee? Will he go there and repeat? Anyway, well, that's an interesting bit, right? I mean, it's pretty confusing. We'll get the legal breakdown of this today on the show on this. And then there's also the big question. For me, this is the big unknown. This is the big unknown. At the end of the door, what happens? The Constitution says the president may, unless the minister resigns his office, revoke his appointment as a minister. So may. He's not even obliged. He's not even obliged. Even Parliament goes through all this process, this noise and the debate and the voting and all the acrimony. At the end of it, it comes down to the president. He may not, right? So this is an interesting one. For me, this is the big unknown. And if it comes to that point, and the president says, well, this is me, I don't think that he should go still, in spite of what the Parliament have done. Well, the NDC says they'll impeach him. You know that's going to fail. Obviously, there's no way the majority side will side with them to impeach the president. That won't happen. They may go to the Supreme Court, and that then will become a long, drawn-out issue. The Minister of State, of course, is going to be there. But that, for me, is really where the heart of this is. So we are really in a charter territory. We're possibly going to be facing a constitutional crisis at some point if this process continues, right? We'll get to the lawyers to help us understand the standing. But here's the thing, though. The Speaker of Parliament, the reason why the Speaker set up the committee, although it's not in the Constitution, he was also using the standing order, right? Because the standing order repeats part of the Constitution, which you see here. I mean, you know, but then also adds a bit of the process, right? Because standing order 106 then says the House may consider such a motion and come to a decision or refer it to a committee. Right? So the House by themselves could have debated this and settled it. But there's a second option, which is or go to a committee or refer it to a committee on a motion made by a member, right? The Speaker chose this latter option, which is to refer it, because really, if you look at everything else that happens in Parliament, it always goes through the committees and then comes back. So the Speaker thought, well, don't change the process. Let's just do that. But the Constitution never mentioned anything about a committee, but the standing orders did. Is that a violation? Is the standing order consistent with the Constitution? And you know what happens when some regulation or some other law is inconsistent with the Constitution? That is null and void. So is this one of those issues? I'll get my lawyer friends and colleagues and panelists joining me to have a say on this. And of course, then we saw what happened yesterday. This played out. The evidence in chief was presented, and we know that the Gabi Ochodako, again, this goes to the challenges with the process. That's why we are calling this the anatomy of a censure hearing, because a lot we don't know. We are still trying to understand it. So let's unpack. Let's go into the belly of this animal, this beast called a vote of censure, because he comes up and says, listen, you haven't given me the specifics. But something very important was said by one of the co-chairs, and in fact, the two of them agreed, that the two co-chairs agreed on the fact that this is not even a quasi-judicial process. It is not a representation or something similar to what you have at the court. It is a purely political process. And so the issues of fairness, rules of natural justice are relaxed, right? And for me, I think that's a very profound point. But then again, if you think about it, impeachment is a political process far more than a judicial process, which is what is happening here. And so he asked for Ochidako asks for specifics. That's what you'd expect if you're going through a proper court of competent jurisdiction. You get the specific, then you go and prepare your defense. They said, no way. You just sit down and hear us, which indeed was what happened. And so he sat down and had them, they're not going to prepare, right? But the point was made, this is a political process, not a judicial process where you expect all the rules of natural justice to be charges, etc. All those detailed legal processes to be followed. This is NDC, MPP deciding your fate. It has nothing to do with the judge. We will talk about that. What does that mean for this process? At the end of this process, if they are not satisfied, go to the Supreme Court to challenge the outcome. That, again, is an open area. Your guess is as good as mine. But here are the numbers when it comes to even the majority members who are asking for Ken Ofori-Atta to go. It stands tonight at 98, right? So let's look at the anatomy of this beast called a censure hearing. My guests are joining me. After the break, we'll get down to the specifics. Let's learn about this process because we are all very, very new to this. And this is one of the moments we'll be talking about for years because it is extending the frontiers of our democracy. And it's good to spend some time on this as we rewrite our constitution going forward. After the break, details.